Good evening, everyone. Town of Winchester. My name is Alan Iden, and welcome to our town election coverage 2021. I have the great pleasure of being here once again after many years with Mr. Alan McDonald, the distinguished Mr. Alan McDonald.
My pleasure entirely, Mr. Alan Iden.
Despite the fact we are sometimes confused for each other, as you found out, but if I'm going to be confused with somebody, you're the one I want to be confused with.
I like getting your mail. You have very interesting correspondence coming.
You haven't been getting any checks, have you?
No, and I wish I could do that.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome to our live coverage of Winchester's 2021 town election. It's been quite a year. In case you're wondering, we are both fully vaccinated here, and but socially separated here. I don't know if it's 6 feet, but in case anybody has a comment about that, we discussed that matter just prior to going on camera.
We did indeed. Well, this is an historic election for us, I think. It's a transfer of some of the leadership positions, really handing over the baton. We have 16 candidates for 10 spots on townwide elections with our town boards, including the town moderator, and 13 of the 16 candidates are new to the townwide
To town
process.
government.
So we see there's going to be definitely some major retirements from public office. Not that those folks wouldn't come back perhaps and run again, who knows, but a lengthy service. We'll talk about that. Some very, very dedicated public officials who have given the ball over to new people coming in. Very exciting.
It should be, and of course it is just 8 o'clock and the polls have closed. There may still be people in line. I know I voted at about noon, and I was 186th in our precinct, which is a little bit light, but I think it's okay for a townwide election, not a national election.
Well, I thought it was light compared to the fact that we had more candidates. We only had 7% turnout last year, but of course, a recap, we weren't here last year because of the COVID. The election was June 20th, not in March,
Right.
and we only had 2 races, so and no questions, no override. So it wasn't a big turnout. But here, this year, we have an override. We have serious competition, and that is even for town meeting. We have only 2 openings for write-ins at town meeting. We have some 74 candidates for 64 places, but only 50 of those 74 candidates happen to be incumbents. So we're going to see, as we usually do, a 10%, 11% turnover in town meeting members. That's annual. We usually get that. But there are a lot of new faces on the town meeting ballot and on the town-wide ballot. And so I thought there'd be a very big rush to the polls. A lot of poll workers. There were a lot of poll workers.
Yes. Something else I noticed too, not a lot of discussion or debate over the one override question. I didn't hear much. I only saw lawn signs probably within the last week or so, but I didn't hear a lot of debate on them. And I don't think I really heard much from the candidates
I think
about
the
that.
town has become more understanding of the process on override. You know, we did not have our first yes on an override till 18 years after Prop 2.5 passed. That was in '98, the override. And of course, that was for the McCall School at that time. And there weren't too many. This will be the 31st override vote we've had since the law passed 40 years ago. And in the last decade or so, we've had more attention and support for what I would call, not the 100 plus, for the high school override, but 10 million, or we've had 1.3 million for an override. We've had 1.8 million for an override. So people have gotten a little more comfortable, especially where it's geared towards an education facility and the flood program. They've been very supportive of the flood program.
Yeah, anybody who's been here in Winchester for the last 20 years knows well about the flood problem.
Right.
Obviously. So let's take a quick look at what the ballots showed. We had our select board. We have Jackie Welch retiring off the board after 3 years, and we have 4 candidates for 2 openings.
We do. Jackie Welch, of course, had done yeoman service as the chair of the personnel board once upon a time. That's a difficult job. She did a wonderful job in that area, and then she ran for office, twice elected to the planning board, and chaired the planning board when she was elected to the Board of Selectmen. So she is stepping down now, and we have candidates for that group that are coming on, which show great diversity, frankly. And they're, one incumbent, that's our chair of the board, Michael Betancourt, and 3 challenges. And John Stevens, who's 40-year resident, lives on Vine Street and active with the ABC program, the Bottle Drive, and active with the Farmers Market, things in the downtown area. And he has indicated an interest in neighborhood issues at the zoning level. And he's been running on that. Rich Mucci, who he's chair of the Social Concern, the Council of Social Concern. He's president, was president of the Winchester Rotary, very well known. A lot of support throughout the town with the younger group. Rich Mucci coaching sports and involved with young kids in school. And Roger Wilson, who was a long time, even longer term, resident of the town and a long-term town meeting member, right. Roger Wilson. Right. And very active, having served on the Finance Committee, the former Capital Committee, Right Lock Farm Board, a lot of activity that brings him a general support as well. So we've got folks, and of course our incumbent running for his 3rd term as chair of the board, Mike Betancourt. So they're all very well known and visible around town.
Right. We have one assessor, and Paul Manganaro is running for re-election there.
Paul's running for his 3rd term, and of course he's active in the Winchester High School Hall of Fame Committee and the Sports Foundation, and very much involved in youth activities. So Paul's on the ballot. He's on the ballot for town meeting as well. We'll get back to that, but his 3rd term as assessor.
Right. And on our Board of Health, we have Shannon Botari retiring from the board.
Yeah, Dr. Shannon Botari is a physician who has worked in emergency room medicine and general medicine, and been a really strong person on the Board of Health 2 terms. She's been there 6 years, and now stepping down and opening up the opportunity for 3 candidates who are new to the townwide election.
And of course, the Board of Health has been an extremely busy
board
for this past year.
Well, they really have. And of course, the candidates there are Maureen Quill Pimentel, and of course, that name Quill, people might recognize that as Henry and Eleanor's daughter.
I didn't know that.
Is the daughter of the Henry Quill, who's the Rotary, downtown Rotary, as we know.
Yes,
as the
he
Quill
is
Rotary.
the Rotary, yes.
And she herself is a nurse practitioner, very active in specialty care and primary care, and she's been a substitute nurse for the school system in Winchester. Mm-hmm. She's well known to a lot of folks and has that background. Ruth Tremarchi, who is a proud grandmother, she said in the candidate statement. So we have, John Stevens is a proud grandfather running as a selectman, and here's Ruth Tremarchi, proud grandmother, very active League of Women Voters, Winchester Trails Environmental Advisory Committee. She's been active as a scientist. She's a biology major undergraduate and a teacher over time, 15 years, and she's concerned with climate, how it affects disease. And so she's very active in the environmental end of things. She has her master's in education after she got her undergrad in biology, and so she's taught in environmental sciences. And Kelly Cormie, who's a physical therapist herself, and does physical therapy formerly, or even with still Winchester Hospital, but now it's Beth Israel Leahy, as we know. But she's a physical therapist. So all 3 are very close to the health situation. So any one of them will be a very good addition to the Board of Health.
Right. Planning Board, we have 2 slots open and 2 candidates.
Well, there's a huge turnover here in terms of longevity. Maureen Meister, 7 terms on the board from 2000 until right now, 21 years. And Betsy Krager, 5 terms on the planning board, which of course is 15 years, and she had 2 terms on the Board of Selectmen before that. Right. So Betsy's also done the 21 years. The 2 of them coming off the board really take a lot of historical knowledge with them, that's for sure. And so Sally Dale, Precinct 7, and I-Ching, Katie Scott, in Precinct 5 are both elected. They're running, the 2 of them are running for the 2 openings. So they will join up with Diab Jarius, who's on there in his 2nd term. So, and actually Heather Hannon, who we know came on with a partial term and then got reelected full term her last time out. That spot that we didn't talk about Heather Von Mering yet, did we? Running for
No.
town moderator.
True,
I don't know
true.
how we'll get back to that.
Yep.
But as Heather Von Mering gets elected to be town moderator because she's unopposed, she will be leaving the planning board. She hasn't left yet because she hasn't been elected moderator yet.
Right.
But when she leaves, that vacancy will be filled by a joint meeting of the planning board and the board of selectmen. And you can find a jewel doing that because that's how Tom Howley came on the planning board to succeed Dan Chain. You remember the colonel?
Yep,
When
sure.
Dan Chain stepped down, that was the end of the 90s, late 90s,
Yep.
97 or so, there was a list of actually there were 8 candidates, but 4 chosen for interviews by the planning board and the selectmen, and it took 4 ballots to get down to break the tie because they were all very, very capable.
Yeah.
But Tom was the most capable, and he came on, and of course after that, lights out. You know, 2 full terms on the planning board and
Yeah.
3 full terms on selectmen and a ton of things since. So that's what's going to happen with Heather Von Mering's seat on the planning board. Planning board and selectmen will choose, fill a vacancy. So there may be some people interested out there right now to be the next Tom Howley, frankly, and get elected by the 2 boards, which will happen very soon. It'll happen probably by the end of the week.
And a very busy and important board, especially with all the things going on
Oh.
downtown, because
Tons.
the planning board is the determinant of special permits and everything for the center business district.
Sure
So
is,
you've got
yeah.
projects at, at Fells Hardware, you've got projects at the Mill Pond Building, all going on, all subject to approval by the
Yeah.
planning board. So a very critical board. And you're right, we didn't mention Heather Von Meering being our new town moderator, with Peter Haley retiring from that position.
Let's
but,
go right
has
back.
done a very capable job
Oh,
there.
mercy, that's certainly true. And so Heather, of course, ran for planning board, had a full term on the planning board, and then was elected a second time, and she's in her second term right now, and which would start the second year of her second term. But she's running unopposed for town moderator, and when she ran for planning board, which would have been in 2020 and 2017, she topped the ticket both times in the vote for planning board. They were each time 2 people getting elected, and she got the top vote both times. She's very well liked and visible in the town, and obviously going to have a real job on her hands, which everybody's going to appreciate as the town moderator. And Peter Haley has done a phenomenal job for a quarter of a century for this community. We've only had 4 town moderators in the past 70 plus years. I don't know when Harrison Chadwick started, but it was more than 7 years ago. But Harrison and Ray Kenny and John Sullivan, of course, and Peter. And Peter Haley served on the school committee and on the board of selectmen and did a fabulous, fabulous job in all those areas before he
Coming in.
became. Yep.
Coming in with poetry.
Oh,
at-
mercy, and
At town
great
meeting.
stories.
And we should comment on the passing of John Sullivan.
Well, it is on my mind. I was going to start off with that, but we jumped right into the ballot. But
Yeah.
losing John this winter, we actually have had 3 people I think we should really mention, and they're all so important. But John Sullivan was a fixture in this community, as we know, for 46 years in public office. He had 9 years as selectman and 37 as town moderator. And it just did a wonderful, wonderful job and passed away this winter, as did, not elected, but Vandy French, who
Yep.
had 43 years or so, or 42 or 3 in our school system, and is, of course, revered as the principal of the middle school.
And-
But
Personally here, he was the president of the WinCam board. for
President
many
of
years.
WinCam.
Yeah. So,
And we all know Vandy represents the very best of the community, the Little League World Series, as we know, and anybody that read about him in the past month. He held the World Series record for Little League, 17 strikeouts out of 18 outs at the Williamsport Little League World Series. For many, many years, somebody finally came along and struck out 18, but many years later. But Vandy, great athlete, great leader, great teacher. Losing Vandy is a huge thing. And the other one is Dennis Slater. Dennis was for years and years, of course, active in the town and was the wiring inspector in Town Hall and really succumbed to a COVID difficulty during the winter. And it's sudden, I mean, really what happened quickly. So to lose John Sullivan and Vandy French and Dennis Slater, and it just reminds us how important all these people are to make this town click, and how lucky we are that we had them working with us. Really
we
fabulous.
are indeed fortunate that we have people of that caliber and serving for such a long time.
John was a great leader in what we're doing right now. He said, we do what we do in town government because it's fun, and we like doing it, and that's why we do it. And when you look around at why we've had such good governance over the years, people have come in as volunteers, not career builders. They've come in as volunteers to do the job, and it's just been wonderful. And John was a great leader in that way.
Yeah.
And Peter Haley's been a great leader in that way too.
He
and
has
I
been.
want to recognize
It's
that.
been, of course, we had to transition to a virtual town meeting, but, as someone who has observed and reported on town meeting for so many years, one of the things I always noticed about John Sullivan was he would let people have their say, and he could go on, but I managed to learn the body language and everything like that, that John would definitely, and his usual comment was, and I could see it coming, I could see it in his face, was, I sense the town meeting is ready for a vote on this. And
Well, John was a combination engineer, a lawyer, as we know, and later in life, and we won't go in, we're going to do the ballots, but I did tell a number of people over time, a lot of John Sullivan stories that I was familiar with, but when I was in the 8th grade, John was at Villanova as a college student in the 5-year engineering program, and I happened to be in the kitchen when his report card was sitting on the counter. He didn't leave it there for me to see, but I happened to be in there with his younger brother Peter, who we're very close with, and they were all A's, everything, A. And I said, how does a guy do that? I was struggling along with hoping to get a B+,
And we should also mention the year that you were not able to be at this table,
That's
and
right.
John Sullivan said, I'll come in.
That's exactly
And
right.
he did. It was fun. Not as much fun as I have with you.
No.
Let's go back to
Back to the
we
ballot.
diverted for a moment there,
School committee?
appropriately enough
There we go.
to recognize those of us who have passed. And let's go back to school committee.
Well, 2 spots wide open, and Brian Vanellia, who's the current chair, and Zena Marchant, both have stepped down, and so they've left open the opportunity for 4 people to run for the 2 open spots. And so in order of their appearance on the ballot, we have Allison Kangas de Balata, and she's been a school board member for Children's Own, and she has 3 of her own children in Lincoln School, and she has been a teacher over 20 years and very much involved in young people's education. So she comes in as an educator, as does Seamus Brady next on the ballot, who's himself an educator over 17 years or so and involved in the Melrose school system now as a special ed coordinator. He's pretty local. He graduated from Arlington High, he told us, of course, during the campaign process, and he has a master's in teaching and school leadership. Not just teaching, but he's into school leadership, and he himself did Peace for America, the program in DC when he got out of school, and very much involved in school structure and education. And Thomas Hopcroft is a 15-year resident. He's told us in town. His children are in Lynch and McCall. He himself is the he's the chief executive officer of a state leadership council, the Massachusetts Technology Leadership Council. He was appointed by Governor Dukakis and reappointed by Governor Baker. And he's been very involved in high tech. He founded a group which brings women into STEM, the science, technology, engineering, and math. So he founded a group of like that, and he's taught himself at Northeastern University. So he's into education, very much on the science end of things. And Joanne Boylan is somebody who came, as she said, moved into Winchester for the school. She has very young children. They're in 1st grade at Ambrose, and the other one in the co-op nursery school. And she very much wants to be involved in the school committee to really, as her children are young, to be there for a while, to really help a generation through the school system. So she has campaigned on that idea, and all four during the League of Women Voters gave similar answers to things. So there's not a lot of philosophical difference, but there is a lot of experience difference among the candidates. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very qualified, highly motivated people who are going to be devoting a lot of time. The ones that are elected are going to be devoting a lot of time to this town.
Oh, they will.
And just quickly, we have one trustee, Jane Murray, being up for re-election of the Library Board of Trustees.
She is up for re-election to her 5th term on the Library Board of Trustees. And she is definitely the senior member there as we look at what's going on with all of the new people coming in, which is exciting on the ballot. There are going to be less multi-term people involved in these boards than we've seen in the past. You know, you saw Betsy Craig going off, and Maureen Meister and others have gone on. So actually, I took a look at where we were with the first termers, and in this coming year, we're going to have 2/3 of our 4 major boards with first being people in their full first term, and that's the Board of Select, Board of Health, Planning Board, and the School Committee. We'll take those 4 together. Those are 18 positions. 12 of them will have people in their first full term out of those, which is new for us. I mean, this is what in the last number of years. It used to be the way in the way back in the 50s and 60s, people didn't run for re-election, but now they do. And it's again not career building, but because they're into the volunteer situation. Right. So it's exciting for us. We have new people coming in. It's a natural thing to pass the baton, and we have some really key leaders who've done a fabulous job. As I say, we've talked about that with Peter Haley and Jackie Welch and Betsy Craig and Maureen Meister. Shannon Botari, Brian Vanalia, Zana Martian going off. And when we get to town meeting members, probably be out later on, but we have a number of people who have been at town meeting for a long time, and some of them did not come back for re-election.
And we also have to comment that all of these boards have been challenged by the pandemic.
Oh, yes.
Each one of them has, of course, the school committee, bringing students back to school, the Board of Health, the select board, an overall policy for the town. Okay, so we will get to our town meeting members shortly, but we actually have a treat right now. We have 2 members of the Winchester Girl Scout Troop 507, and it's Isabella Bogovich and Madison von Meering. As a requirement of their Girl Scout Merit Badge citizenship in the community, they went out and volunteered for 8 hours at a local organization. They had to do that. WinCam was very fortunate that we were the organization that they chose, and they were out today, and this beautiful day, interviewing people at the polls.
How about that?
So we're going to take a look at that right now.
That's great.
What is the most important thing you can do when you decide to back a candidate?
I think the most important thing you can do is know where they stand on all the issues and know their principles and values, and then get out and share that, like one-to-one, like have the candidates to your house, so you can really connect with them personally.
What traits do you like to see in politicians that you vote for?
I guess I like to see politicians that are good listeners, they're good communicators, good collaborators. They're thoughtful people who have the best interests of the students in mind.
All right. What are your thoughts on the elementary schools going back in a week? Do you think it's a good idea, or do you have any concerns?
I think it's definitely a good idea. I think the kids need to go back, and I think they've gone back in other areas without issues, so I think they'll probably be just fine.
All right. And then one last question. Do you think the cases will increase once the kids go back to school full time?
I don't think that there'll be a majority increase. I mean, it might be a slight increase, but I think that it will be manageable, and that most of the children, they don't seem to have the severe symptoms anyways. So.
Do you think that Mike Benencourt will be reelected for the select board?
I do think so. I think he'll be very, very hard to beat. He's very popular in the town.
I agree.
And yes, he's going to be Very tough. I think he's probably going to finish first, but we're going to give him a run for his money.
Yep. And then finally, last question. What traits in politicians do you like to see?
Honesty, transparency, saying what they mean, meaning what they say.
Who do you think has the best chances of winning in the select board?
Oh, I think tonight it's clear that Rich Mucci's going to come in first. There's a lot of competition, which is good for the town to see. Selectman Betancourt's an incumbent, which is always tough to run against. He's running for his third time. Rich is running for his first time, has great community service. Mr. Wilson has great community service, is running a good campaign. So I think it's going to be a horse race between who comes in second and third.
What are some of the important issues that could determine who wins tonight?
I think people have to set their priorities. In Winchester, education has always been the number one priority. And Rich Mucci wants the schools to reopen. And it's not easy, as you women know, with the national, state, and local regulations about safety and COVID-19. But I think his goal to reopen the schools and help adjust the downtown due to all the construction because of the train station are important goals.
What are some of the important issues that could determine who wins?
All right, well, so we voted for a lot of people in a lot of different positions today. So maybe I'll focus on the school committee. I suppose getting the kids back in school is one of the most important issues and what people's ideas are for that. And maybe their ideas related to early literacy in the town.
Is the town doing a good job with COVID social distancing inside at the polls?
So I'm very impressed with Mary Ellen, our town clerk, and her staff and how they've managed this election. It's been extremely smooth. All the volunteers at the polls have been fantastic. It is completely safe is what I've seen. Everyone's socially distanced, everything's spread out. You have a nice room. It's been a great effort, and I can't say thank you enough to Mary Ellen and her staff for putting it all together.
All right, is the town doing a good job with COVID social distancing inside the polls?
Yes, I think they're doing an excellent job.
All right. And then what are your thoughts on the elementary schools going back in a week? Do you think it's a good idea, or do you have any concerns?
I think it's a great idea. I think the kids need to be back in school.
And then last one, do you think that the cases will increase once the kids go back to school full time?
Nope, I think it's been proven that the schools are not the place where the disease is getting transmitted. I think it's other places.
Thank you. What is the most important thing you can do when you decide which candidate to back?
Well, obviously vote, and that's where we are today. So let's get that elephant out of the room. But no, most important thing, if you really like a candidate, get out there. I have to say, I was at the dump this Saturday, and I'm supporting Richard Mucci, who I think is just a fantastic candidate, and we need more like him and to participate. And the best thing you can do is tell your friends, and that's the problem. Part of everyone thinks that whether democracy is just passive. No, it isn't. It's about being active, being involved, and getting out there and kind of marking a place on the street and say, okay, that's where I stand and that's where I'm going to be.
I'll echo that. Thanks. Great job by Isabella and Madison.
Great job.
Out there at the
fun.
polls, recognized a
Yeah.
few of the people behind their sunglasses and their
I
masks.
think so.
But what a great piece, and we thank them for putting that together on a beautiful day.
Yeah.
So it is 1:30. I think we are going to be expecting to have some guests in here tonight. I don't think we've received any election updates. I don't think we have any poll results yet. So
Okay.
we'll wait for them to come in and we'll start bringing them to you
All
as
right.
soon as we get them. So why don't we move on to town
Okay,
meeting members?
Sure. I took that the ballots are green and they don't show up on the TV. I traced them over to white paper here, but that's right. So
Not bad. Like I said, it looks like you were sitting here in the Versailles
we
Palace
have,
or
as we
something
say,
like that.
we have 74 candidates. I counted the two write-ins as candidates, so 72 plus the two write-ins, 74 for 64 spots. And again, 50 incumbents out of the 72 candidates who have been named so far. 50 are incumbents, 22 are challengers. And it's exciting to see a lot of new names here running for town meeting. So in Precinct 1, we have 10 people running for 8 spots and 7 incumbents. And it's really kind of an amazing precinct because 6 out of the 7 incumbents have town-wide office experience. I mean, you got David Heinold, who was Board of Health for 5 terms, Susan Verdicchio, currently on the Select Board, but School Committee 2 terms before that. Bob Deering, Selectman for 2 terms, Chair of the Educational Facilities Planning and Building Committee from the very start till now, right through, and Citizen of the Year, of course, as we know. You've got Chris Nixon, who's in the 4th term with the School Committee, hockey dad and Texas's gift to Winchester, been here many, many years. Seamus Brady, who's a candidate for School Committee, as we know, and Doug Marmon, who's been a selectman early in the teens of 2000, former chair of the Finance Committee, and very active. So those folks are all incumbents, along with Morris Sullivan and challengers Richard Humphrey Jr. and Enzo Rossianato. And that's quite a selection, frankly. That's really quite a list of people who've done a lot of service for the town. John Lowy, who has been a representative from Precinct 1, is not back on the ballot. People who were on the ballot in 2018 were elected for 3 years. And as we know, for those maybe who are seeing this for the first time, 24 town meeting members in each of the 8 precincts. We elect 8 per year, so that 3-year terms for each comes out, they get all 24 filled. In Precinct 2, we have candidates, 7 candidates for 8 spots, so that's one of the 2 precincts that actually will allow for a write-in. And Susan Carney's an incumbent, Jason Lee an incumbent, Laura Colella incumbent, George Nowell Jr. and George Nowell, and when you put those 2 together, they, certainly George Sr. is in his 5th decade of service, which is fabulous, and George Jr. is pretty much well along too. And Anthony Conti is probably at least in his 4th decade of service, 90s and 2000s, 10s and 20s, but long-term service there, particularly with Tony Conti and George Nowell and George Jr. And the newcomer, who we welcome, is Barbara Buquano, who is the lone challenger in Precinct 2, and she has an open seat she's running for. So, Barbara, welcome, and thank you for being a candidate. We lost out of Precinct 2 from the 18 ballot Robert Pace and Carolyn Starrett, who are not candidates for re-election. Precinct 3 is 13 for 8, so this is a big race. And there are 7 incumbents. 4 of them have town-wide office experience from this precinct, starting with Tom Howley, really at the top of that ticket, who, as we said, Select Board for 3 terms and Planning Board for 2+. He filled the term of Dan Chain, as we said earlier, and then 2 more. Amy Poftak, John Stevens, a current candidate for the Select Board. Maureen Meister, as we say, 7 terms on the Planning Board. Kathleen Bodie, 5 terms on the School Committee. Fabulous, she's still serving in town meeting.
And she's also the school superintendent in Arlington.
School superintendent in Arlington, and she's still very much active. That's great, isn't it, huh? Theodore Michalski, who's a challenger. Karen Conley, an incumbent. Jason Lewis in Precinct 3, our former state rep and now current state senator. Ryan McKay on the Finance Committee and the father of 2 grandnephews of this particular commenter here, myself. He's a challenging candidate. Karen Caputo, Robin Voss, Charles Kelly. Robin Voss is an incumbent, Charles Kelly a challenger, and Susan McPhee an incumbent. No Gerald Polcari in Precinct 3 on this ballot. And of course, Jerry was a selectman for 2+ terms back in the 90s, and so he's not back on the ballot now. We may see him again on that over time, but essentially we have 6 candidates here running for the 1 open seat if all the incumbents hold their seat. That would be a big challenge. That's quite a race, so that'll be an interesting one to see how that comes out, I think.
And do you think it has any effect, as we saw at the beginning of this, the Precinct 3 is the central district of the town. Do you think it has something to do with the amount of change that's going to be coming around in the center business district?
Well, I think that's True. Over the time, 3 has been a very active political precinct. 3, 4, and 7 probably as much as any because they're in that core of the town. And I've always thought. And the ones that are on the outskirts, 1, 5, 6, 8, and 2, as we go around that way, have had their moments for sure. But over the years, probably because of the activity in the center of the town, people get alerted to the political end of things more, and they get involved, they get drawn in. So if we could do that a little more in the outskirts, that's what we're working on too. And we've had great talent come from all of those precincts. So, but yes, I think a lot of interest in downtown development now, and so you've got 13 candidates for those 8 seats. In precinct 4, we were 8 for 8, so they're all elected. 4 of them are incumbents and 4 challenges. Bettina Parks challenging. Mary Ann McCall-Taylor, long-term incumbent, Planning Board, 3 terms back in the 80s and 90s. She's really been a stalwart contributor over the years. Sally Quinn, Citizen of the Year.
And very, very active in the Right Lock Farm.
Right Lock Farm, so many things.
Guidance of the Right Lock
Probably best known for the Right Lock Farm, but not so well known for many other things that she's been involved in. But Citizen of the Year, Sally. Michael Ray's challenger. Candace Margles Van Aken, fabulous service over the years with her husband Peter Van Aken, of course, who, in my opinion, was a Hall of Famer. He was selectman twice and former chair of the Capital Planning Committee when we really, really needed a chair of the Capital Planning Committee, and he did the job. But Candace is back on the ballot. Mary Kay McIntyre, a challenger. Stephen Boksansky, a challenger, very active in state affairs, a young person, and everybody's young for me, but Steve's the husband of Liz Kelly Boksansky, and Liz Kelly, for those who remember Liz, on the Winchester State Champion soccer team, and she's a Winchester High Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame, fabulous, and she's on the committee for the Winchester High School Hall of Fame as well. So Liz is well known, and Steve has become well known. I want to say, is he married a Winchester girl? Could be the better half, but Steve's pretty good too. And then an incumbent, Bhavana Aptayaya, who has come on and is running for re-election and a good service for town meeting. The big loss here for the town meeting, for people stepping out, Justin McGee, another Citizen of the Year, and Mary Ann McGee. And we've had a lot of couples over the year who've really done yeoman service, John and Phyllis Williams, and I can go on and on. But Justin and Mary Ann McGee have been phenomenal contributors to town meeting. They're in the 4 to 5 decade
And Justin
routine too.
is a Citizen of the Year.
Oh yeah, that's exactly so. And so they're not on the ballot for precinct 4, where they have been for many, many years. And Maureen Metropolis also not up for re-election out of precinct 4. So that's part of the cycle, as we know.
Right.
And can we go on to precinct 5?
Absolutely. Let's go on to
Precinct 5 has 11 challenge going for 8 spots and 6 incumbents there. Robert Johnson being at the top of the ballot, longtime incumbent and active at town meeting and youth sports and a number of things. William Band is up for re-election. Nicholas Casagrande, new name, the new challenger. Melissa Madden, first time on the ballot, well known to all of those of us who visit the Lane Funeral Home from time to time. Melissa Madden is manager there and been very close with the Lane family. Very part of the Lane family. Ruth Tamarki, who's a candidate for the Board of Health, is an incumbent at town meeting. Tim Nolan's on the ballot. He's also Sports Foundation Committee, very active with youth sports in town. And Jackie Welch is still a candidate for re-election.
Okay.
Former Select Board, Planning Board, Personnel Chair. We've talked about that earlier. Philip Frateroli, who's a very popular Winchester family name. Aaron Catullo, incumbent. Carol Savage, incumbent and all-star on the Financial Advisory Committee to the Selectmen, the year 2000, and long time active in town affairs, Carol Savage. And Eric Keto is a challenger in Precinct 5. Leaving Precinct 5, not being up for re-election, of course, Peter Haley. We talked about Peter already, phenomenal service. And Helen Filio. Now, Helen Filio has been Miss Finance Chair, Miss Finance Committee for so many times.
Chair of the Capital Planning.
Capital Planning, well, it started, I'm thinking back in the 80s for crying out loud, in the 90s, but Helen has been Miss Finance, Capital Planning and Finance, and she's not on the ballot for re-election. So Peter Haley and Helen Filio, and the third there is Leah O'Donnell, who are not up for re-election in Precinct 5. So Precinct 6.
Precinct 6.
So Precinct 6, 10 running for 8 spots, 6 incumbents. So Noah Solomon is a challenger. John Weissman, who came on to town meeting after the 2018 election, but he's an incumbent. Patrick Madison, a challenger. Yanis Everagenis, who's in town meeting and running for re-election. Jack Chula, who's a challenger. Monica Ross for re-election. Joan Miller for re-election, and you may know Joan and her husband John. John Miller, who was also a big contributor to the Financial Advisory Committee to the Selectmen, the Facts Committee, was the Republican nominee for Attorney General in the 2018 statewide election, and he ran against Maura Healy on the Republican ticket, and as we know, Maura Healy was elected. Francis Sabatino is an incumbent running for re-election. Paul Manganaro, who's third-term assessor coming up, and Winchester Hall of Fame committee, as we've already said, and Sports Foundation. And Margaret McIndoe, very, very long time active, who is working the polls today in a public service role and running for re-election in Precinct 6. No Cindy Bonney for re-election.
Oh.
And Cindy, as we know, two-term school committee during this past decade. And no Steve Powers for re-election. Both Cindy Bonney and Steve Powers were on the 18 ballot for 3 years in town meeting. They're not on the current ballot in 2021. And of course,
Steve is no longer a Winchester resident.
So Steve moved, so he couldn't be on the ballot.
Choice, right.
But Steve, of course, had been on the school committee for a term in the 80s. He had 4 terms on the Board of Selectmen and 4 terms on the Board of Assessors. So he piled up the years. That's 27 years of town-wide elective office and very, very active in town meeting, as we know.
Right.
So again, the baton is passed to new folks coming on, and we see a lot of talent that we've been the beneficiaries of.
We're still waiting for some results to come in. So
Well,
we
we've
don't
got 2 more precincts. We'll cover that, and then we'll talk to some candidates,
Sure.
some electeds.
Let's move on to Precinct 7.
10 people running for 8 seats there with 7 incumbents, and beginning with Christopher Corvey, who's an incumbent, and Rebecca Tellefson, who's an incumbent. And challenger there is Elizabeth Schreiber. Brian Buck is an incumbent. Challenger Jenna Heffley, incumbent Bruce Hickey. And then we have 2 who came into town meeting since the 18 election who were running as incumbents, and that's Deborah Bryant Tapita and Christopher Jones. And then Megan Blackwell from Precinct 7, who has been on the Finance Committee as vice chair, and I'm assuming that means she's succeeding to chair of the Vice Committee and will be representing, as she has represented, a Precinct 7 on Finance Committee. So Megan Blackwell back on the running for town meeting right there. And Magdalena Ferrari, who's a candidate for re-election. And who do we lose from Precinct 7 at town meeting? Jim Whitehead did not run for re-election.
Wow.
Select board, middle of this last decade, as we know, and a leader, again, for Right Lock Farm. We've had a lot of folks who have been active there, who've been good in town meeting too, but Jim Whitehead is not a candidate for re-election in town meeting.
Right, some big names going off.
A lot of names, and then Precinct 8, just to wrap it up, is 7 for 8 with 7 incumbents, and the Min Kyu, John Weil, Hank Lynn, all incumbents. Heather Von Meering, and she's the unopposed candidate for town moderator, as we know, and off the planning board, but she'll be Precinct 8. Norman Doucette Jr., as we know, Norman, he's in his 5th decade, I think, too.
Yeah.
But retired DPW leader,
Yeah.
and so well known to the entire community. Martin Mahoney for re-election and Michael O'Brien for re-election. No Zana Marchant, who retired this year from the school committee and didn't go up for re-election to the town meeting, and Patricia Shea is not a candidate. for re-election. So, as I say, 72 candidates plus 2 write-ins, that's 74 for the 64 seats, 50 incumbents. So we're guaranteed at least 16 new members at town meeting, even if all the incumbents get re-elected. And there'll be perhaps other spots to fill partial terms as we go. So we'll see the usual 10 to 11% turnover on the 192 members of town meeting. So
I do have a
again,
question.
yes, sir.
Do you know everybody in town?
I sure don't.
Is there anybody you don't know?
I sure don't,
We just
but-
went through all these candidates.
Well, I'm thrilled that we see the new names coming along, and so thankful for the ones who provided the service,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
we really have had so much of that. And this is an unusual year that we have so many longtime people who've been in town meeting for so long and have held townwide office and have done so much. And I know from history, they're not disappearing when they go off the ballot. You will see them in many, many other town activities. But it is interesting in the governance sense of being able to bring new people in. And so the cycle we're seeing this year is going to be producing some names that people who have got these seats not too long from now will be talking about. So, not that you're going to leave soon.
Oh.
You're too young. Okay.
Oh, thank you. If only that were true. We just looked at that video a few minutes ago from 1984, so
that was pretty good.
you flatter me. We have some results coming in now. Let's take a look here. Looks like we've got precincts 1, precincts 2, 7, and 8. So we have some totals coming in, and we have a guest.
Oh, good.
So our current chair of the Select Board.
Oh, good.
And I got to keep.
Sure.
You've been slipping a couple of times.
Well, when somebody was a selectman, they were a selectman. I try
That's
to
right.
say
Okay,
select board,
so
but I forget.
we will give you a pass on
good.
that.
Thank you.
But
I'll get better.
Mike Betancourt is joining us, I think, in the adjoining community room here, so we don't get
Okay.
quite too crowded and cozy here on the set.
You and I have had our shots, as we want to tell the public, so, and we're staying distant to a little bit, and we have
Correct.
had
So,
the benefit of the
let's-
vaccinations.
Let's talk about the results we're seeing from 4 of the 8 precincts for the Select Board. We have Michael in the lead here with 1,003 votes, followed by Rich Mucci with 745, Roger Wilson closely following with 603, and John Stevens with 282. So again, 4 out of the 8 precincts, those are Precinct 1, Precinct 2, Precinct 7, and Precinct 8 reporting. So let's see if we can bring Michael Betancourt in here. Mike, are you out there? There he is.
Hey, Alan, how are you? Nice to see you. Doing fantastic. It's great to see both of you. You know, my first year, I didn't know that I was supposed to come over here, so I never got to be a part of this. And the second year that I ran, there was some sort of technical difficulty, so I was so excited to come over here, but I still can't be in the same room with you guys. So, I'm glad to see that you're still at it. Looks like you're at Caesar's Palace over there or something. I don't know.
Well, congratulations on your involvement over all these years, Michael. You've really done a terrific job. You've been involved in a lot of projects. And I think during this particular campaign season, you talked a lot about a number of projects that you want to stay involved in because they're never actually done. But there are times in the middle of them when it really is important to stay the course. And you've been talking about the housing issues, the downtown issues, and a lot of other things. But I'd love to get your thoughts while the people are watching, how you see things developing over the next couple of years and those kinds of things.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. I think the big story from this election, really, for me, is the override looks like it's carrying the votes pretty well. So it looks like it's going to pass, and it's great to see the community support something even in the middle of the pandemic and the financial crisis, and a lot going on. Something that started over 20 years ago. So as a select board member now, it ties me back to select board members that saw this vision years ago, and it's nice to be able to carry the ball forward and finish that project. And of course, a special thank you to Chris Nixon, who helped really add the other piece of this override, which was the Morocco School repairs that are very necessary. So, we see the Lynch project coming up in the next several months. We're going to be addressing that a little bit more formally and talking about the financing of the project. And the MBTA construction in the town center is going to have a major impact on our businesses. So it's really going to be a big task for the select board to see how we can really buoy up our existing businesses and support them through this multi-year project, something that's completely necessary. So, and of course, there's also the growing enrollment in our schools, which just adds to the financial burden that we're seeing. And it's an attractive place for people to come, and we're going to continue to work hard to keep it that way.
A lot of changes coming in Winchester Center, don't we, Mike? Between the train station being rebuilt, which is going to be a challenge for all the center businesses over the next 2.5 years. But several large building projects that hopefully the result will be to bring a lot of new residents into the center. And I'm feeling that I think it'll be a boost to the business community in the center once you have these people living in the center. And especially with changes coming with maybe less people commuting and more people looking to live in an environment where they can go downstairs and go out to do their shopping on a walking basis rather than having to drive there, get their coffee, get their paper, get their hardware. I think, what do you see some of these changes coming to the center? I think they're positive changes. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think they're absolutely positive changes, and they're really from years of planning. The rezoning of the Center Business District was really the vision of the planning board many years ago and really put into place. And so we're seeing the benefits of that now, and we're seeing that there's investment from developers in our town center, and they see the transit project that we're doing. And so it's going to be a bumpy road, I'm not going to lie to you, over the next 3 years. And we're going to have to really work and make sure that we're supporting our local businesses. It's funny, Alan, I saw a video from back when you were first on the select board, and there was a huge project in the town center, and I think that you were just encouraging everyone to be patient for the project. It was sidewalks and streets and things like that, just saying, hey, this is going to get done, and it's going to be better when it's all over with, and just hang in there. And so I think you've seen the benefit of those projects over the years, and I think that's kind of our message as well, is that we're going to do the best we can to support our local businesses in the town. But it is going to be a little bit of a bumpy road, and we've got to work together.
So I've got a question, Mike. Where did you see that video?
I thought we'd get rid of all those.
Yeah, I thought we got rid of all the evidence.
I wish I brought it with me. I will try to find it and send it over, but it's deep.
Here this evening.
Yeah, it's trending on TikTok, so you can see it.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, while you're doing that work, it makes a tremendous difference. And we did see in the early 80s a transformation of interest in the downtown area through the community. And it started with the investment, but the early dollars, and we had state help with it, were good. But then it was volunteer efforts and people getting involved. And Mr. Ryden to my left here, with the Winchester JCs, they had a project every year during the middle and late 70s into the 80s that related around that area, and it just made everything come together. So what you're doing is going to have a tremendous impact over a long period, and so we give you encouragement to stay with the program. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
A Zoom meeting every other Friday with the town officials and the Chamber of Commerce, and I give you kudos to you because you come well prepared and well ready for any answers to any questions that are raised. So thanks for taking the time for doing that.
Yeah, well, thank you, Alan. It's been important for all of us to maintain that connection over the past several months where we can't physically be together, and it's been a great relationship we have with the Chamber, and so I look forward to working over the next several months, again, to make sure that our businesses are supported, and I think we should be in good shape.
And it's still a lot of work, and we know the amount of time. My cohort here knows the amount of time that goes into working on the select board. So, and unpaid and sometimes unheralded, but our thanks for that. And again, you may have more figures than we do, but you're out to a early lead, and I think you're going to have to be stuck there for another 3 years.
Thank you. Well, it's a pleasure, and it was really nice to see that even in the middle of this public health crisis, there were so many active candidates in the race, and really elevated the dialogue and the conversation for the community. And I think you're going to see a lot of close races there, including the select board. And so I'm glad to see that it's the community is strong, civic engagement is strong, and at the local level, certainly our democracy is strong. So thank you.
And as Alan says, your lead is substantial in a two-way winner out of 4 without any question. And you have an opportunity, in my opinion. We talked about the fact that there were, out of 16 candidates for the 10 spots that are town-wide, only 3 incumbents. And a lot of first-termers who are going to be involved now throughout all of the boards, whether it's the Board of Health or the Planning Board or the Selectmen. And your leadership, there are going to be a few people who are senior at school committee and selectmen and right through the town leadership. And you'll be in a position to hopefully really help these folks come along and have the kind of involvement that you've had and that we all appreciate for the town. And you've been a good example for that, and I think there's more of that coming. And I just want to say it's a great opportunity, truthfully, and we're lucky to have people who do stay and do more than a short term, so that we can have a balance of a lot of experience and new people getting to learn how to be involved the right way. So very well done.
We appreciate it, Mike, and we thank you so much for taking the time to come down and visit with us tonight. We'll see you in person at some point, but you're just a wall away here.
Well, thank you both very much for doing this as well. I was also told by my friend Carrie Sue Barney that I couldn't win an election with a beard. So hopefully we're proving that wrong tonight. So we'll see.
So far,
Looking
the
good.
beard and the results.
Looking good.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mike.
There was a certain theme in this town election, and I heard it from the candidates. So when they gave their presentations, it was communication, collaboration, and transparency. And so hopefully that'll all be true, because that's what we heard from all the candidates. So we want to collaborate. If I'm running for this board, I want to work with another board too. We want to communicate everything we're doing. We want to be transparent in our desires, motives, and our results. And so that was what we heard throughout with all the candidates. And that's what we hope to see as it gets done.
And I got to just last comment there on Mike and his beard. Yes. On the same meetings that I'm on regularly every other Monday, Mike Day, our state rep,
yes,
has been on there, and we have watched his beard grow and then get shaved off. And then I think it's related to somewhat the COVID figures. So when he goes back in isolation, the beard goes, and then when he comes out of isolation, the beard. But I've seen at least 2 or 3 cycles of that.
Well, you brought up it's not the town election, but you brought up state representative. Michael Day is now chairman of the Judiciary Committee in the House of Representatives. That's a substantial position. And so, there are 140 state representatives, 40 state senators, 160 state reps. So only a few of them get to be in a position to really have that kind of influence, let's say. So it's terrific, and he's done a good job. And this is not about state elections right now, but we do have a candidate who is our state representative, who's very involved at the state legislature, as is Jason Lewis. The two of them are very strong in those regards. Yeah.
So let's take a look at what we got totals. We have 4 precincts reported. We review the select board is Mike Betancourt is in the lead with 1,003 votes, followed by Rich Mucci, 745, Roger Wilson with 603, and John Stevens for 282. So Mike is out to an early lead in that. In our Board of Health race, very close race between Maureen Quill Pimentel and Ruth Trimaki. Maureen leading with 642, Ruth with 589, Kelly Cormie with 164. School committee race, again, very close. The top two, Seamus Brady, Tom Hopcroft with 844, followed very closely with Seamus Brady at 809. Allison Kangas de Balata.
It's De Balata.
De Balata.
That's
Okay.
a pretty name.
Thank
So
you.
it's
It is, yeah.
Allison Kangas De Balata.
Yep.
Kind of is a musical almost.
She's,
So
as you can see, with 688, and Joanna Boylan with 471.
while you're on that, Alan, it really was interesting to me. There's now a Winchester High School Senate, and they interviewed the candidates for school committee, and they endorsed Seamus Brady and Thomas Hopcroft with the thought in mind that they would be good mentors, that they had, they themselves were mentors, and that they were interested in developing mentorships. And that was what came out of the high school senate. I think it's what we might have called the student council in the olden days, but that to me was interesting. I never had seen that before, where the high school students endorsed candidates for school committee, but they did endorse Seamus Brady and Thomas Hopcroft, and they happen to be leading.
Right.
And the other two, as we know, have come in, Allison and Joanna both.
So, Mr. Hopcroft is actually here to
Oh,
join
is
us
that about
tonight.
that?
So, Thomas, I think you are in the other room there.
Yep, I'm right here.
Thank you. Welcome for coming. Thank you for coming down here. It looks like you're off to an early lead here. I don't know if you have any more information than we do. We've got 4 of the 8 precincts in, but you're off to a lead in those 4.
Yeah, it's looking good right now. So the people of our town have cast their votes, and it sounds like they liked a lot of the issues and platform that I put forth. And so if it comes to be that I end up being one of the 2 candidates, I'll look forward to doing the best I can and serving our community, the entire community, on the school committee.
Well, you've served the state well too, Tom, no question about it. As the CEO for the Tech Leadership Council for the Commonwealth, and I really think that you did a good job in presenting that during the campaign, and you must have, because I just said that the Winchester High School Senate endorsed you as they did Seamus Brady. So how did you feel about that endorsement?
Well, we're all here for the students. I think everyone in the race was really united around wanting to really help give our students the greatest opportunities, all of our students, and so it was it felt very good. I really appreciated the Student Senate ran a really professional process. They interviewed us. It was very thorough, and I was very honored to have their endorsement early on. I look forward to working, to listen to their voices as well as many of the voices in our community as we make decisions on the committee.
Tom, that you were a founder of a group bringing women into STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. And I'm just wondering if you bring to the Winchester system your own leadership in your background in the technology world. Is that something we would expect a little emphasis on, or how do you see it?
Yeah, diversity is certainly important at all levels. And my day job, I work in the tech industry. I run the state's largest tech trade association, and tech is a largely white male sector. And so we spend a lot of time on various programs trying to bring more diversity into tech. To do that, we really need to inspire more girls and people of color, and provide the tools and the resources, to create the pathways into these, knowledge economy jobs that pay twice the state average. They're really good jobs, and increasingly they're the jobs that power every industry. And so making sure our students have the opportunity to be future-ready graduates to meet the future where it is, to not just consume it, but create it. We have that opportunity in Massachusetts, and so I think in addition to really helping all of our students get through the pandemic and the reentry into more normal school, I think there's some longer-term things around innovation and really trying to prepare our students to be as successful as their potential will allow.
Well, it's looking good for you right now. It might be a little premature to congratulate you, but hope you continue. We thank you for coming down and joining us, and also for volunteering to be of service to the town.
Well, thank you so much. Oh, is there more?
Any special thanks you want to give out, campaign managers or et cetera, et cetera?
Sure. I mean, my wife is my campaign manager, so thank you, Victoria, and my family. But no, I have to say at every level, I thank our town clerk and all of the town employees, the election volunteers, all of the other candidates who ran, really hard campaigns. All of the parents and children and teachers and administrators and special educators and mental health. The number of people who have really helped advise me and shared their stories and helped me really get a deeper understanding of the issues in our town. It's been a great journey, and I'm grateful for the experience. So thank you so much for the opportunity here tonight.
Excellent. Thank you for coming down and taking the time to be with us, and good luck, Tom.
Thank you so much, Alan.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Great. I was going to mention one of the, we mentioned these themes, collaboration, communication, transparency.
Mm-hmm.
Another theme was the color. Remember in the old days, we talked earlier, it was Bob Gallant, he used to do a little funny story on election night, and he would do some interviews himself. Well, I was thinking of him today and during the last few weeks, actually, because red, white, and blue was the coloring for almost every handout that we got. In fact, look at them in front of you.
Yes.
John Stevens, Tom Hopcroft used red, white, and blue. Mike Betancourt did. Roger Wilson did. John Stevens did. Even when it wasn't red, white, and blue, it was Seamus Brady was blue and white. I think Joanna Boylan had red and white. And the only one that was red and black was with the Quill family when we had Maureen Quill, Bill Pimentel.
Oh, yeah.
But red, white, and blue was the big thing. And today, when we were out at the polls, all those signs, tons of poll workers on big stick signs, and you could just see red, white, and blue all over the place. But that was really something. More so than in the past. In the past, we've had everybody's got a different color scheme.
No, it's a great observation. I think you're right. Now that I look back at it, you're right.
He would have done a piece on it.
Well, we have another guest, again, we're still waiting. I don't know what our status is on getting those other 4 precincts in, but if anybody can tell me, that'd be great. But Rich Mucci, who's in second place here, is here with us. So, Rich, are you in place in the other room there?
Hi guys, how are you? You hear me now? They're smart.
So it's looking good for you. I don't know if you have any more information than we do. Like I said, we've got 4 of the 8 in here, but it looks like you've got a pretty good, solid second place position in there. Anything you want to comment on? You have a good day today?
I had a great day. It was a fun day. It was great seeing all the candidates out. It was beautiful weather, which is fantastic. It was a lot of fun interacting with voters today. And no, I don't have any official results or any inside information, Alan. So, I'm happy with the campaign we ran. I have a lot of people to thank for the campaign, starting with my wife, Stacy, and my kids, Ben and Catherine, who I know are watching. Hi, guys. And my extended family, who was out in full force today, manning the polls, and my friends and colleagues in Winchester. It was an exciting day. I'm very excited. I had a great day, and hopefully we'll get some results soon, and it'll be a great night.
I was just talking, Rich, about the red, white, and blue. So you had a ton of red, white, and blue poll workers out today and all through the weekends and at the transfer, I was going to say dump, but at the transfer station, downtown or at the Rotary, all over the place. You have been a good leader in this community, Rich. You've been president of the Rotary Club. You're president of the Council on Social Concern. Really have had a good look through youth sports and with the kids coaching. And so what brings you now to be a candidate, and which we're thrilled about, and bring the sense of more service to the public side?
You know, I've enjoyed all the charitable work I've done. I've made a lot of great relationships. I hope to bring that same energy to our town governance. You know, I truly believe in community. I believe service and above self, and that's the attitude I've had in this community for several years now. And you know, what brought me to serve the town in this capacity was, you know, the last 18 months. I know we faced challenges. I know better days are ahead, and I think I've got creative solutions and really want to work with the team and the town to better the lives of everyone. And I hope I can bring something to the table with my experiences in the past, and I look forward to doing it if I win.
Just ask our tech people, Rich, we're having a little bit of trouble hearing you. I don't know if you can turn up the volume.
Yeah, it's not bumpy, it's just the volume is low.
Yeah, yep.
But I'm assuming that people are turning up the television volume.
We get,
Can you hear me now?
no, much
Oh, that's-
better.
that's very
much
good,
better.
yeah.
It was,
We could hear you, but it was just low volume.
yeah, it was just a little bit of a strain to hear you, but yeah, you know, and I can say, you know, I've watched you on these Zoom calls, these business government Zoom calls every other Friday, and you've been great and very active. You're a great advocate for the chamber and the center business district in particular, and you know, we know the challenges between, you know, construction and projects and tearing down and rebuilding a train station. And I'm sure anybody that's been down in the center recently knows how many parking spaces have been lost, and great concern to keep our center business district viable throughout this next 24 to 28 months is going to be a challenge.
It is, and I think, you know, as a community, we can face that challenge head on. I have faith that we can overcome that, and yeah, I mean, I can relate to the businesses. I own a business in the center, so I certainly empathize with their needs, and I think we've got some creative solutions. I know the town has been working very hard. I know the select board as well has been working very hard to address those concerns, and if elected, I hope to add to that discussion and bring some creativity to that as well.
Excellent. Well, it's looking good for you so far. We are eagerly awaiting the last 4 precincts so we can see what's happening here.
We are eagerly awaiting.
Don't know what's going on that end, but Rich, thanks for coming down, and thanks for taking the time. Anybody in particular you want to thank?
I just my family, my friends. You know, there's too many people to name. I'd have to, you know, be here all night. But they're, you know, everyone was so instrumental. You know who you are in this campaign. It was a good campaign. It was a hard-fought campaign. I congratulate all the candidates, especially in my race, John, Roger, and Mike, for running a great campaign, bringing out the best of all of us in this race. And you know, I'm just excited. I'm excited. I'm nervous waiting for those last 4 precincts to come in, Alan. But you know, I'm excited for the campaign we ran, and you know, if elected, I just look forward to working with everyone to make our town better.
Looks like we're getting figures in here. I'm watching our tally board here, and looks like we must have got the other few precincts in here. I see figures kind of popping in.
They're popping in one candidate at a time. It's like the tennis scores when someone says 6 or 4. It doesn't tell you very much.
And apparently, Rich, you've never been up for an Academy Award, because if you were, you would have the names in front of you of everybody you want to thank.
I don't have an agent or a talent agency. You know, this was a grassroots effort. You know, so like I said, there's so many people to thank, and I will do so personally. You know, starting with my friends in the chamber, Rotary, Council of Social Concern, my family, the people I've coached with. It's just an endless list. As I'm sitting here, I feel my phone buzzing with people texting me. So, it's just been a great ride. It's been a lot of fun, this campaign. And, if elected, I look forward to working with a new team to move us forward.
The numbers are very good.
Yeah, I can tell you from, obviously what we've got are preliminary results here, because I don't know if absentee ballots and such are in there, but the results we've got from the 8 precincts show that you are elected. We've got Mike Betancourt with 2,283 votes. You pretty close behind, 1,860. Roger Wilson with 1,230, and John Stevens with 545. So I think we can congratulate you, Rich.
Well, that's great. I'm seeing these results for the first time in this room. I'm just really excited. I'm excited to get to work for the town. I'm excited to work with Mike and the rest of the team and move Winchester forward. This is what I wanted, and I'm kind of shocked right now seeing these numbers for the first time. When you get into this, you don't know how it'll end. You build a campaign, you have projections, you take your steps to get there, and then seeing it unfold like this is just absolutely fantastic. And I'm just so excited. And again, I first have to thank my family, my friends that were behind me, and then all my colleagues and the chamber, Rotary, and everyone who went to bat for me. I'm just. It was great to have everyone behind me.
I should say it's been a very respectful race. Everybody was, brought their issues there, and I think we're going to hear from Roger Wilson in a couple of minutes. So, Rich, thanks for coming down, and congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I look forward to serving the town, and I guess I want to say thank you to the voters in Winchester for entrusting me to the select board, which I think we have preliminary results now, so thank you to the voters for entrusting me. I'll work hard for those of you who did not vote for me, and I'll work just as hard for everyone who did. So I look forward to making our town a better place, and thank you for this opportunity.
Great. Thanks. All right, so we have, let's take a look at our tally board here. Okay, so looks
Very
like we've
close.
got all 8 precincts in, so we have some results here, and we have an empty chair up there. I just saw an empty chair, so.
Oh, okay. The Board of Health race, very close. Maureen Quill Pimentel is ahead of Ruth Tremarchi. We talked earlier in the night about the importance of the health situation more and more in all of our minds, frankly. And Maureen is a nurse practitioner, and Ruth Tremarchi, who's second behind her now in the vote, but close, is someone who's been a biology major undergrad with a master's in ed and has been a teacher in environmental sciences and interested in working hard on how climate affects disease and how we have to be careful about that. And Maureen, of course, has been a substitute nurse in the Winchester school system. She's been an active person in the community also, and comes from a family that's been active over the years in the community. So close race there, particularly, and we'll see how that comes out as we go forward.
Well, and I just lost our tally board here.
Yeah, you did.
We
What
get
did you
somebody in
push the
here
button?
with the results. Help.
Well, let's get Tom Hopcroft back over here. We need a tech advisor.
Who's
Mercy me.
I can see it up on the program board. We have lost it here in the studio.
This is a new high for us. We over the years have had a lot of fun with the results coming in. But.
So Roger Wilson is joining us here.
good.
So while we get a little tech support here, let's go over. And Roger, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. Unlike Rich a few minutes ago, we were straining to hear you. But thanks for coming down. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. The problem is that when I came down here, of course, I'm missing your show, so the night is incomplete.
I want to congratulate you, Rod. You ran a very, very solid campaign, and it's very clear, whatever the finishing order is, that your love for the community, for all the activity you've put into the community, and your knowledge of what we need in terms of economic development and those kinds of things is something I hope we don't lose, frankly.
Got it.
Well, thank you. The numbers don't lie. I'd be the first to tell you that, and I lost. But it was a learning experience for all of us involved in the campaign. It was a challenge. It was fun. I want to thank the people that supported me, that campaigned for me, that donated to the campaign, which was a whole new thing to ask for money, and of course the people who voted for me. And I want to especially thank my campaign committee, Dave Schipple, who's a hiking partner, and we talk politics, and he probably will never talk politics again with me after this experience, but he helped me, Jack Lemanger, and who's the chair of the Historical Commission, Doug Marmon, who's a former select person, and Michelle Pryor, who maybe we should call a future select board member. They really helped me, advised me, and we're learning together, but it was I think a good show. 20% of the voters thought that I would make a good select board member, and that's a good showing. Obviously not what I was hoping for, but there's another day.
Also, your first run at townwide office, correct?
What's that?
First run at a townwide office, right?
Yes.
Very respectable.
Certainly through Finance Committee and Capital Committee, Capital Planning, and so much involvement you've had. You've made us all interested, Roger, in your governance magazine on improving local government. So.
Yeah, so really it's all strategic. This was, for name recognition, right?
And I got to say, I am the lucky recipient every year of the annual newsletter that comes out of the Wilson that comes out of the Wilson household, and I so look forward to that every year and finding out everything that's happened in the Wilson extended family for the entire year.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, guys.
Well, thank you for running, and you did a great job. You've been a great contributor over many years now to the town meeting, and in the kinds of advice you're offering. So we appreciate it very much.
Yeah, and I'm going to watch you in the rerun.
Great.
You've got great patience.
Roger, thanks for coming down.
Okay.
Yep. So let's. Oops. I was trying to get the hang of this mouse here. I'm not a Mac person, so hopefully I won't lose our totals again. But let's see. Okay, so back to Board of Health. 8 precincts reported, as we said. I don't know if we want to bring that up on the screen. The totals up on the screen for the Board of Health race. There we go. So you can see the totals right there. And it looks like Maureen is in for that one position on the Board of Health. School committee, let's bring up the school committee results here.
So the 2 candidates endorsed by the Winchester High School Student Senate have won the day. Pretty close, frankly, among the 4 candidates. Really, even Joanna Boylan, who is the 4th place, is not that far removed, truthfully, from Tom Hofcroft at first place. That was a terrific race, and 4 talented people who presented themselves very well during the campaign.
Okay, so let's take a look. I think we have another guest coming in, and we also have For precincts 1, precinct 2, precinct 7, and precinct 8, we have the results. Again, I caution our viewers, these are preliminary results. I don't know if they include, they probably include pre-voting, early voting, but there may be absentee votes out there. But most of these totals are pretty much total. But before we get to our precincts, we do have another guest. We have Heather Von Meering is here. Heather?
Madam Moderator.
Well, congratulations. Do you have a gavel?
Oh, well, not yet.
We're sure you will, and we hope you'll wield it judiciously, but are you excited?
I am. I'm really, really excited, and watching everyone who ran for town meeting and so much energy and new energy coming in is, I can't wait to get to town meeting. And I am excited to take this leadership role. I am so excited to be the first ever female town meeting moderator for the town of Winchester, and it's super exciting for me. And I love our town, and I can't wait to serve in another role for them.
Interesting. I assume that our spring town meeting is going to be virtual again.
Yes.
So that's a bit of a challenge, not to be up in front of all those town meeting members, but I'm sure you're up to it.
I think so. Peter Haley took the first step in doing that, and watching him has been a learning experience. I feel that with the amount of staff and support that town meeting has around them, a lot of volunteers also help with making the virtual town meeting happen. So I think I'm ready for it. But as I keep telling everyone, I will probably fall down flat on my face a couple times. I will probably stumble on words, and at the same time, just pick me back up and say, get back out there and keep going and keep doing it. So
Madam Moderator, we have learned that many times people are successful because people are so supportive and want them to be successful, and you want to be, and so many people around you want that same thing. So we congratulate you. You really have done a nice job in the planning board end of things, and your move to the leadership here is really historic, as you say. You're filling a role that we've always held in high esteem, and we're going to continue to do that, obviously, and we're excited for you and for the community. Congratulations.
thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, I do want to say, though, leaving the planning board was a hard decision, and the planning board was really, we never talked outside, but as a board, it was just a wonderful board to serve and work with, and was very collaborative, very open at the table. It was a hard decision. It's one that I didn't take lightly, to leave that board to take on the town meeting moderator, but it is one that I know that the two new members will do a wonderful job, and I'm very excited to see what they will do and what ideas they bring to zoning and land use for the town as well.
We had some fun 2 years ago here when the Board of Selectmen went majority women for the first time. But I went back after we had the fun that evening and saw that all the boards were majority women except for the Board of Assessors. It wasn't just the Selectmen. The Planning Board has been majority women for a little over the last decade, frankly, and again, still all the boards are. The Select Board just went back with the 2 men we just elected to being 3 men out of 5, but town meeting itself is majority women. I took a peek at that just for the fun of it, but we celebrate the fact that we have such a strong core of women involved in the community as leaders, not just involved, but really running the show. So helping to run the show from the guy's point of view, we're helping hope. But very exciting. And now we have you as an example in the town moderator seat, which really takes us another notch, frankly. And that's very exciting.
Thank you. I think the other fact, because I know both of you really love facts, is that this is a last elected position that has not been held by a female. So we have finally broken the ceiling, and I'm very excited to be the person to do that. And it's a great honor. So thank you so much.
You know, when I looked at it, it's been a half a century of a women majority on the school committee. I mean, we had, I don't know if these folks now, but Kathy Alexander and our own Sandy Rogers and Jeannie Wellman, and so many people who really made a difference early on. Connie Pappas, that's quite a lineup that we had, and they were great examples over time, and we have built on that. Certainly through that committee, Kathy Bodie and Sarah Swiger and Beth Ladow. I mean, that committee really produced so many tremendous leadership women, and it's only growing from that. You've done it on the planning board. We've had really solid people there. We've had a big change coming up with you coming off the planning board, and Maureen and Betsy. That's a big change, and of course your seat will be filled by a joint vote of the planning board and the selectmen because of the vacancy that's now occurred. But it's been a tremendous group, and you've done a nice job with it.
And the good news apparently is that the town moderator's position apparently must be fun. Because the people that get into that seat stay for years. One of my closest friends is a moderator in a local town here, and he's been doing it for 20 years. So, Heather, I think that's good news for you. I think you should be excited, and it's a fun job too. Challenging.
We won't you right away to have to do 20. But
well, of course,
they're going to wish you the very best for the upcoming year. That's
you realize that Peter has set the expectations that we're going to need poetry at the town meeting. Are you prepared for that?
Yeah, I am. I mean, a lot of people have asked me to do poetry, and I think I probably will to kick it off, because why not? And thereafter, we'll see where we go. But I have a different energy than Peter does. Also with John Sullivan and a lot of the previous, I have a different energy, and hopefully it will make it fun also for town meeting members as well, and informative for them, and make it exciting for them to continue to participate and stay involved. And so hopefully we can find some ways to just kind of switch it up to be my personality embedded in there as well, along with those before us. And I also want to mention Betsy Krager and Maureen Meister, and a lot of actually the women that you have mentioned, some of them who have stepped down, have been incredible mentors to me and great leaders for me to watch and to learn from. And Jennifer Wilson is another one you mentioned earlier in your broadcast, and they just really have been incredible women to watch, and they led my path. And so I really am grateful for so many of the women in this town in government.
We look forward to seeing you, as a longtime observer of town meeting, look forward to seeing you put your own stamp on town meeing.
We'll see. I can't wait to hear your feedback on that.
Your commentary. Well, I'm very careful at town meeting. I don't do commentary. I just report the results, the facts. So, no commentary on it. But I think you'll enjoy it, and we'll enjoy watching you.
Thank you so much, and thank you all as well for all the history that you bring to this show.
Great.
I think that. Does that mean we're old?
Oh, I think so.
Oh, okay. But thanks for the compliment anyway. Thanks.
It means you're knowledgeable.
Okay, that's a good spin on it. Thank you. That's
Thank you so
great.
much.
And thank
You
you
have a great
for
night.
coming down here and taking the time, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You too. Take care.
Well done.
All right, so we do have, we're in the tail end of this here. Let's talk about our town meeting members, since we have all 8 precincts in. And yeah, as you can see on our tally board here, unless I hit the mouse the wrong way and it disappears.
Might have.
But before I'm going to keep my hands off it. But you can see the highlighted green, so we do have, again, preliminary results, but it looks like who's won in each precinct, if you want to go over them.
My eyes aren't as sharp to see across at the whole thing, but I can see where the greens are, and I can match them up against my my thing. But
I would try to zoom in, but
I
the
can
whole
see
thing might
in
disappear.
Precinct 1, Dave Heinhold and Susan Verdicchio win, and Bob Deering comes back in. I think that's Maura Sullivan, Chris Nixon, Seamus Brady, Doug Marmon, and
Quinn Simpson.
Quinn Simpson.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Precinct 1.
Those are elected.
Precinct 2, everybody's elected.
All of the ones in Precinct 2 that we
Yep.
talked about earlier, because it was 8 for 8.
Right.
Precinct 3, Looks like, of course, Tom Howley at the top of the ticket there did very well, and Amy Poftak as well. And then Maureen Meiser. No, Maureen,
Yep.
yeah, Maureen, yep,
Maureen
there she
Meister.
is. Yep, very good. And Kathy Bodie. So a couple of long-term town meeting members there for sure. Then we have Karen Connolly, elected again.
Yep, Karen Connolly of Whiffy.
There you go. Jason
Foundation.
Lewis, whom we would expect would do well. And then Robin Voss, who was a candidate for re-election, as is Susan McPhee. So the challenges that didn't make it there, I mentioned earlier, Ryan McKay, Karen Caputo, and John Stevens did not make it, and he's on the ballot for town meeting. And Charlie Kelly the same way. But
In Precinct 4, we've got everybody
yeah,
eight for eight.
Precinct 4 was another 8 for 8. 4 incumbents and 4 challenges. Precinct 5, we had 11 for 8 in Precinct 5, and so Bob Johnson wins. He's been a long time town meeting member, as we know. And then it starts with Ruth Tremaki, and right through Tim Nolan, Jackie Welch, Philip Frateroli, Aaron Cotillo, and Carol Savage and Eric Keel are all winners.
Right.
And then in Precinct 6, we have 10 candidates for 8 spots, and we have Noah Solomon and John Weissman winning. John Weissman's a candidate for re-election there. Then we have Yanis Evragenis, love saying Yanis's name, Yanis Evragenis, re-elected. And then Monica Ross, re-elected, and Joan Miller, same way, Francis Sabatino, Paul Manganaro, and Margaret McIndoe. So that's our precinct,
Precinct 6.
number 6. And in precinct number 7, we have 10 challenge for 8 spots. 7 of those are incumbents, but so Chris Corvey is an incumbent who wins again. Rebecca Tellefson, Elizabeth Schreiber is a challenger, and she's a winner. Brian Buckback being reelected. Let's see here, Deborah Bryant DePita and Christopher Jones, who both came in since the last election, and now they're reelected full terms, and Magdalene Ferrari. And Megan Blackwell, who's been prominent on the Finance Committee, did not get the town meeting votes, but she has been a big contributor at town meeting, frankly, through the Finance Committee, and hopefully she'll continue to stay involved.
Right. And we should mention it's a close race in there, so it's.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Right.
It was all those votes are incredibly close.
Right.
And
All of them.
so it was only a couple of votes difference. They would have made a difference there.
And Precinct 8,
Precinct 8
everybody
is
elected.
7 candidates for 8 seats, so everybody's reelected there. Yep.
All right, so let's recap what we have. We have 2 winners in the select board race, Rich Mucci and Michael Betancourt. Michael being reelected, the current chairman being reelected. Maureen Quill Pimentel is elected to the Board of Health. As you can see, okay, we don't have that up, but there we go. And and in the school committee race, Seamus Brady and Thomas Hopcroft are elected to the 2 positions on the school committee. And that, so again, cautioning everybody that these are preliminary results, but I think most of the results are clear enough that a few absentee ballots aren't going to make a difference. We are actually going to take a quick moment to go back to our. It is Boy Scout Troop 507. I was a member of Troop 507, and I didn't realize there was a Girl Scout Troop 507. But so we misspoke earlier. I was misinformed, but it is Boy Scout Troop 507. It is a different age. So Isabella and Madison are both members of Boy Scout Troop 507 doing their community project here, and we were lucky enough to have them. So let's take a look one more time at their hard work during the day today.
Great.
most important thing you can do when you decide to back a candidate?
I think the most important thing you can do is know where they stand on all the issues and know their principles and values, and then get out and share that, like one-to-one, like have the candidates to your house, so you can really connect with them personally.
What traits do you like to see in politicians that you vote for?
I guess I like to see politicians that are good listeners, they're good communicators, good collaborators, they're thoughtful people who have the best interests of the students in mind.
All right. What are your thoughts on the elementary schools going back in a week? Do you think it's a good idea, or do you have any concerns?
I think it's definitely a good idea. I think the kids need to go back, and I think they've gone back in other areas without issues, so I think they'll probably be just fine.
All right. And then one last question. Do you think the cases will increase once the kids go back to school full time?
I don't think that there'll be a majority increase. I mean, it might be a slight increase, but I think that it will be manageable, and that most of the children, they don't seem to have the severe symptoms anyways. So,
Do you think that Mike Benencourt will be reelected for the select board?
I do think so. I think he'll be very, very hard to beat. He's very popular in the town.
I agree.
And yes, he's going to be very tough. I think he's probably going to finish first, but we're going to give him a run for his money.
Yep. And then finally, last question. What traits in politicians do you like to see?
Honesty, transparency, saying what they mean, meaning what they say.
Who do you think has the best chances of winning in the select board?
Oh, I think tonight it's clear that Rich Mucci's going to come in first. There's a lot of competition, which is good for the town to see. Selectman Betancourt's an incumbent, which is always tough to run against. He's running for his third time. Rich is running for his first time, has great community service. Mr. Wilson has great community service, is running a good campaign. So I think it's going to be a horse race between who comes in second and third.
What are some of the important issues that could determine who wins tonight?
I think people have to set their priorities. In Winchester, education has always been the number one priority. And Rich Mucci wants the schools to reopen. And it's not easy, as you women know, with the national, state, and local regulations about safety and COVID-19. But I think his goal to reopen the schools and help adjust the downtown due to all the construction because of the train station are important goals.
What are some of the important issues that could determine who wins?
All right, well, so we voted for a lot of people in a lot of different positions today. So maybe I'll focus on the school committee. I suppose getting the kids back in school is one of the most important issues, and what people's ideas are for that. And maybe their ideas related to early literacy in the town.
Is the town doing a good job with COVID social distancing inside at the polls?
So I'm very impressed with Mary Ellen, our town clerk, and her staff, and how they've managed this election. It's been extremely smooth. All the volunteers at the polls have been fantastic. It is completely safe, is what I've seen. Everyone's socially distanced. Everything's spread out. You have a nice room. It's been a great effort, and I can't say thank you enough to Mary Ellen and her staff for putting it all together.
All right. Is the town doing a good job with COVID social distancing inside the polls?
Yes, I think they're doing an excellent job.
All right. And then what are your thoughts on the elementary schools going back in a week? Do you think it's a good idea, or do you have any concerns?
I think it's a great idea. I think the kids need to be back in school.
And then last one. Do you think that the cases will increase once the kids go back to school full time?
Nope, I think it's been proven that the schools are not the place where the disease is getting transmitted. I think it's other places.
Thank you. What is the most important thing you can do when you decide which candidate to back?
Well, obviously vote, and that's where we are today. So let's get that elephant out of the room. But no, most important thing, if you really like a candidate, get out there. I have to say, I was at the dump this Saturday, and I'm supporting Richard Mucci, who I think is just a fantastic candidate, and we need more like him and to participate. And the best thing you can do is tell your friends, and that's the problem. Part of everyone thinks that that whether democracy is just passive. No, it isn't. It's about being active, being involved, and getting out there and kind of marking a place on the street and say, okay, that's where I stand and that's where I'm going to be.
Thank you again, Isabella and Madison and I guess we say Scout Troop 507. So I'm not sure we actually have Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, but Scout Troop 507, and thank you for making us your, hopefully you got your Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge, well earned for that. So coming back here, we have totally, and thank you for reminding me, we totally skipped over the ballot question.
All important ballot question.
Right, the override question, and we see like a 3-to-1.
Well, it's quite important for 50 homes at least in the Morocco School area for the work that can be done on the culverts to stem the flooding that happens in the area. We haven't finished the flood project. You heard Michael Betancourt talk about it tonight. This particular override, which will be something between $12 and $14 million, estimated at $12.7 million, to put the culverts in behind Morocco that are needed to complete the flood relief program, and some for the furnaces and roofing at Morocco to at least keep that in good repair until longer term plans are being discussed for both Lynch and Morocco. We'll see how that goes.
Right.
But it's it's a big win.
It's a big win, and the totals, if you haven't seen them on the screen, was 2,725 votes for and 902 votes against the override.
Well, we know the overrides lost quite a bit when they first began in Winchester after 2.5 passed in 1980. There were 9 significant defeats for any override question attempted until 18 years after the bill passed. We talked earlier in 1998 when $17 million was approved for the the middle school, McCall Middle School. Since then, we've had, this will be the 15th vote on a debt override. We've had, the community has accepted the debt overrides more than the general overrides, and the 15, this will be 9 yeses now versus 6 noes. This is my unofficial count. But the debt does not add permanently to the budget within the 2.5 cap. The general overrides do. And we've had, I think 15 or 16 general overrides over time, and only 3 of the general overrides have passed. Out of the 16, 13 were a pretty strong no, or sometimes just a regular no. But
I think it's a lot easier for people to pin it on a particular project, and particularly like this too. You've got a school that everybody knows, it's going to need to be patched together for the students. We've got a growing population in that precinct, and floods that affect a lot more of the town than just the Morocco school area.
Over the years, again, unofficially, by my kind of keeping track of it, we've had enough approved over time that we've had state aid come in of some $70 million to the community on the debt overrides that we have accepted. And the debt overrides have been for schools, Skillingsfield, as we know, and we called it Hamilton Farm when we purchased the farm way back with a $13 million override. But the overrides really have been anywhere from $1.3 million to the $129 million for the high school. But the total is really, for all of what's now 31 questions, which have gotten, this is about the 12th yes, but a total of about 230 million or so total together, which we then got reimbursed some 70 million by the state. So they're projects that the town has accepted as important, and the overrides have not been, they don't get punched automatically, but when they're on something as vital as this, and for a reasonable amount of money, not to say why is 12 million reasonable, but it's reasonable versus the hundreds of million that get spent on so many capital projects for big issues like flood control. And so anyway, that's a big thing for the community, and we talked about the candidates a lot, but we do need to highlight what happened tonight on the override vote for something between $12 and $14 million when it's all put together, which will be a debt that will be paid off and not go into a permanent part of the budget for the community.
So before we put our audience to sleep,
Yes.
let's do a quick recap of who's been elected: Richard Mucci and Mike Betancourt to the Select Board, Maureen Quill Pimentel to the Board of Health, Seamus Brady and Thomas Hopcroft to the School Committee. And so those are our contested races, and we already reviewed who was in the who won in the individual precincts, and of course 3-1 approval of the question 1, the override question. So as we wrap up here, just a couple of things. Community interest. We have town meeting coming up, of course, at the end of next month. And next month is almost here.
Sure is.
With the day. And I'll put in a personal plug too for we're doing a mini town day. We're not quite ready, I think, health-wise for a full town day on June 5th, but we're going to run a little event downtown just to kind of give a boost to the downtown and local merchants. So no out-of-towners, no organizations, but just a little, hopefully a little fun day that'll bring some people down to see and learn about some of the great businesses we have in the center, as well as get some good food. And then everything, if the stars align, we are hoping to do a full town day on September 18th.
Wouldn't that be something?
With our fireworks and our crowds, and hopefully the situation is going to be, the public health situation is going to be thus that we can celebrate that, but that's our hope.
Well, you, my friend, are Mr. Town Day, so I think that is really fabulous, and the crowds have been over the years just all smiles.
It's great fun to put on a party for the town, and I would think this year we need one more than ever.
Right,
So,
now that's a good point.
But speaking of great fun, it's always great fun to be here with you. I don't know how every year you come up with this vast knowledge.
Well, I enjoy keeping track. I'm really on the sidelines totally these days, or pretty much totally, but I enjoy and get excited about the people who come in. This was a historic election, the passing of the baton on so many long-time wonderful people who've been involved in this town government, and will be still involved in some ways, I'm positive. But it brings in new blood and new ideas, and really it's fun to see other people get excited about coming in and doing the work.
It is. So, and I don't want to leave without a shout out to our team here at WinCam, putting together an awesome broadcast. We, as we said, we discussed the whole mask thing here. We're both fully vaccinated, so, but bringing our guests into the community area here at the WinCam studio. And if you haven't been down here, please check it out, and you can check out the revolving Arthur Griffin exhibit in the other room. That the Griffin Photography Museum is nice enough to change out every few months. So in addition to their shows at the museum, they have revolving shows here. So if you haven't checked it out, please come down and do it. Some of our technical help here tonight, we welcomed Suzette Ferdinand, who is moving on to bigger and better things, but was gracious enough to come back here and assist us tonight. But she has moved on to a position with the Voice of America.
Isn't that great? Wow, she's been terrific here for a good while now, and really backbone for much of the stuff that goes on, as you know.
Right. And I can't say how well, in the days when we used to sit here and wait for handwritten election results and sit there with our calculators trying to add up so the technical support we had tonight was just great, and it's always great fun. And like I say, sitting here in our palatial setting has been fun too. So again, as always, I know that you gave up your longtime residence on Bacon Street, and you've moved to new digs up, joining me on the west side.
I'm on the west side.
Moving up to the west side.
I miss my old neighborhood too, because there's so many great people there, and over the years we certainly were there a long time, some 65 years in that one spot. But through family, I actually went to Wyman School from that house. But we so thrilled to still be in this great community, and it was time for us in our current cycle. We're a little older than we were for those earlier years, and it's a little more comfortable to not have to take care of the big old house that we love so much.
Right. Excellent. Well, again, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence and supporting me here. And
Great fun to be with you.
It's always great fun. So for all of us here at WinCam, we thank you for joining us tonight. We hope you had an entertaining and informative evening, and congratulations to all the winning candidates, and congratulations to the people that stepped forward to run a race and didn't quite make it to the top of the ticket.
That's
but
true.
we thank them too.
Yeah, and thanks for the great folks we talked about earlier in the night who have passed the baton and done so much for this community.
Right.
A lot of fun.
Mr. McDonald, Mr. Alan McDonald, thank you for being here tonight. I'm Alan Iden, and we thank you for joining us. And stay healthy, and let's keep on the trajectory we're going, which is healthier and better. So thank you, Winchester, for joining us tonight. Good night.